Thanks, Alex. Brothers and sisters, no politician with a greater respect, whether it be the First Minister or many of the politicians who are here today, really know what the future holds for us. But anything must be better than the decades of austerity we have faced and are now being told to expect. The last time they urged us to vote not to save the UK, to vote against independence, they claimed they wanted to build a land of opportunity for all. But the reality for millions is one of economic misery. And every general election, the bookies speculate on who will win the election, but it's always clear in Scotland who the losers will be. The pensioners, the sick, the poor, the unemployed. People should ask the simple question: who actually runs this country? Why should we take lectures about the irresponsibility of independence from the very people who nearly destroyed the UK economy out of their unrestrained greed? Why should a handful of men be able to threaten the future of entire nations from £100 million yachts? The unionists have spent years rubbishing Scotland's economy, but an impartial observer might ask the question: if Scotland is such a basket case, why are they so desperate to keep it as part of the United Kingdom? Yet after 300 years of the Union, Glasgow has 6 out of 10 of the most deprived areas in the UK, where some 51% of our children live in poverty. Life expectancy for males in parts of Scotland is the worst in Western Europe. Today, the stakes are higher than they have ever been. In each European country, mainstream politicians have engaged with ideas once relegated to the margins of fascism. Election campaigns, including in this country, are being fought with the lives of men, women, and children, and a toxic combination of inhumane laws, public ignorance, and hostility has bred despair, has bred contempt and fear. Even if the victims of war and famine manage to get to Great Britain, they face hunger, they face homelessness. We have a barbaric system in Westminster that allows for little hope, scapegoating the weakest. The pictures 80 years ago of the emaciated corpses in the gas chambers of Auschwitz, Birkenau, Treblinka warns us of what happens when we look the other way. One only needs to switch on our TV screens, to scroll through our social media, to see the civil wars, to see the genocide in Gaza, to see the racism, to see the misogyny, the homophobia, that starvation and torture is still the norm. Refugees fleeing war, poverty, persecution, and disasters aren't a drain on the resources of this country. But it suits those at the top to pump out the myths that migrants in boats are the problem, rather than the rich in their super yachts. I'm not a politician. Nor am I in any political party. And there is nothing more than I care about in this world than my children. But a vote for an independent Scotland must be a means for a bigger dream. That dream is bigger than any party, it's bigger than any individual, it's bigger than any leader. But there is one cast iron guarantee I can give you if we were independent. The people who live in Scotland will finally make the decisions that affect Scotland. Westminster will no longer have the right to dictate what we should think, what we should think, what we should create, what we should produce. We will no longer be told we cannot govern ourselves. From warfare to welfare, from employment to foreign policy, from cradle to grave, we will have the right to decide our own destiny. I want a Scotland that stands as a beacon for human rights around the world. I want a Scotland that rails against illegal wars. I want a Scotland that stops Prestwick being used as a staging post for rendition and US bombers. I want to live in a nuclear-free Scotland, and I want a justice system that is worthy of a civilized society. It's about the future of our children, of our children's children. It must be about whether Scotland will put people before profit, whether Scotland will send people to die in illegal wars, whether we will have a publicly owned health service and look after our old. That dream should be about the ending of poverty and inequality and standing up for humanity. Over the years, as a lawyer, I have repeatedly been told by my peers and my elders so many times that there is no point, you cannot fight the system. But all the things we take for granted in this country, the right to vote, the right to equality, the right to be gay, the freedom of religion, freedom from slavery, all these were once considered impossible dreams. But there is one freedom that we are still denied, and that is to be an independent country. And as I look around the world today, a system that can rustle up hundreds of billions of dollars to incinerate people in Gaza, in Beirut, in Tehran, but never to feed them. It's not political naivety to demand that in a new Scotland, we must demand that the billions that go to death and destruction must build a new life. Those billions should lift the wages of ordinary people. They should give them jobs, build new hospitals, and give hope to our youth. We do not have the luxury of waiting. We can win, but we can only win if we are never scared to raise our voices for the truth. Thank you.